Hey folks, Thomas here. Welcome back to Mears Lab. In today's episode, I'd like to talk about soldering amp chassis grounds. I can't speak for everybody, but if you're anything like me, you might cringe at the very thought of having to solder a chassis ground. The solder never seems to stick right. The soldering iron doesn't seem like it's hot enough, even though it seems like it should be. The solder just keeps balling up. It can be really annoying, to say the least. After some practice, I learned a few tricks that turned it from something I used to cringe at to something I kinda actually look forward to now. In this video, we'll get started with a demonstration first, and then after that we'll go right on down the rabbit hole of soldering and get right into the details. Here's what we're going to be working with here today. This is an old pedal project from a long time ago that I made, and it's it's not really functional right now, but it would make for a great example for this project because this is the same material that guitar amp chassis and stuff like that are made out of. It's just a little dusty and dirty, which is not really that great, but for the sake of this demonstration, it's perfect. Okay, let's get started here by cleaning that up a bit. Probably one of the most important things for soldering is keeping everything really clean. Okay, so now let's move on and let's get soldering here. Okay, I'm going to apply some flux here, right on the spot that I want to do some soldering. Alright, let me just wait a second and make sure that that's completely solidified. It only takes a moment. And then we'll hit that with some IPA here. It's a lot easier to clean the rosin off right after you've soldered, before it's fully solidified and hardened. See, that only takes a moment to remove that extra hardened flux on there. It's important that we remove that flux too, because otherwise over time it could actually corrode that nice solder connection that we just made. Okay, just clean that up with a little bit more with the other side. There we go. It's nice and shiny. And you can see that it's wicked right up to the very edge. It's not balling at all. It's just a beautiful little puddle. A nice, beautiful, smooth little puddle of solder. That's what you're looking for. Okay, I'm going to see if I can scrape that off here. I've got a scriber right here. It's with a really hard tip. Let's see if I can. You see, when you get a really good solder connection, it's like, it's impossible. I'm really trying here, seriously. It's impossible to get it to like just off, you know, like just, I'm not really sure what you call that, like just flake off. The reason why is because the solder actually binds right to the metal itself that you're putting it onto. It doesn't sit on top of it. It actually kind of blends right into it. Okay, let's do that again now, right from the start. And this time I'll sort of slow down a little bit and I'll explain what's happening. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over now. And we'll do one right there, okay? So I'm going to clean this off. There you go, that's good. The reason we clean the surface of the metal off like that is because this is some sort of coating that's been put on there from the factory, or maybe it's some oxidization or some dirt or grime, or maybe a combination of all of those things. But what that does, that little layer on there, is it can prevent the solder from adhering to the actual metal itself. And so we need to scrape that away. And you can just easily do that with some sandpaper and wipe it right down there until you can see the color of the metal itself, and then you're good to go. Okay, now the next thing is to clean that up with some isopropyl alcohol, because the IPA, it will dissolve away any residual oils or anything like that that might still be on the surface, because solder can be very, very picky. And when you're trying to do something like soldering to an amp chassis, it tends to be very picky. So anything you can do to help it along is going to be a good thing. Cleanliness, cleanliness, cleanliness is one of the most important things about soldering. Just trying to keep everything as clean as you can. After you clean something, don't touch it with your fingers, because you have little bits of oil on your fingers, even if you can't really quite feel them. It's still there, and if you touch it, then you'll get those on the surface. Right now it's really clean, so we don't want to ruin that, so we'll be really careful not to touch it. So next, we're going to apply some flux on here. And we just need to do a drop or two, not too much. What flux does is actually really cool. When you heat it up and it gets really, really hot, it turns corrosive. And that eats away the very top surface layer of the metal. And the reason that's important is because that allows the solder to sort of seep into the metal and actually blend into the metal. So you have a few different layers happening. You have the solder resting on the top, then you have this blended layer that's made up of solder and whatever the metal is that you're soldering to, and then you have the metal itself that sits underneath that. And that's why you can't pry that off of there, because it's actually part of the chassis now. It's not resting on top of it. The types of solder that you generally use for soldering has rosin in it already, but it's not quite enough to do a job like this. It really helps to have a bit of the extra stuff here. This is the kind of soldering iron that works really well for soldering amp chassis grounds. And here's the reason why. It's the big, giant, thick tip on this one. That's probably the most important part about soldering an amp chassis ground. It's a really, really big, thick tip. I think this is 10 millimeters. And that is why it's able to get the job done so well, because this is able to very efficiently transfer the heat from the iron into the chassis itself, the spot that you want to solder. The reason that's important is because the chassis itself acts sort of like a big heat sink. It's sucking all of the heat right out of the iron, but the problem is the heat that's getting sucked out of the iron is not getting concentrated in the little area that you want to solder in. It's getting distributed through the whole chassis, and that's no good. So you need an iron that's able to efficiently transfer the heat into the workpiece. And something like this iron here that has a big, thick 10 millimeter chisel tip is perfect for the job. This was about $60 Canadian, and it works so well for this. It really, truly turned it from something I really used to cringe at the thought of doing now into something that I actually kind of enjoy. Okay, so let's get right in here now, folks. We've got our area all clean, and we have our flux added. I like to get a nice long strand of solder ready to go here as well too. I'm going to clean the tip of my iron off on a wet sponge I have over here on the side of the desk. I'm going to hold the tip of the iron down flat against the chassis. I don't have to have one of these flat spots resting up against it. Just having the tip itself flat against the chassis is enough. Now I'm going to do that right in the middle of the area that I want to solder to, and I'm going to wait a few seconds. It takes a bit of time for the chassis to heat up so that it's hot enough to melt the solder properly. So what I'm going to wait to see is I'm going to wait for this puddle of rosin to start bubbling. Once that's started bubbling, then that means that it's eating away that top layer of metal, and that means that the metal is ready to receive the solder. Okay, so that's what we're waiting for. I'm going to apply the iron, heat up that area that I want to solder. The rosin's going to start to bubble, and then I'm going to add my solder. I'm going to just add it until I have a nice sized little puddle. by continuously feeding it into the area I want it to go to. And I might even tap the end of the iron a little bit just to help make a better thermal connection between the iron and the chassis as well too. Okay, so let's get started here. I'm gonna hold this right into that puddle. Okay, see, it's all bubbling. Now we're ready to go here, folks. See, it just takes it right up. And now I lift the iron away. And away we go. That's all there is to it. And after we wait a second or two, we can clean that up with our IPA. Okay. Just get right in there and clean that up. I have a brush here I like to use for this sometimes too. Works really well. Okay, pretty good. Over here. Okay, it looks pretty good. Here's what to look for when you're inspecting the solder that you just made. Have a look at the color and the surface of it. It should be really smooth and shiny. Really, really nice and smooth and shiny and reflect the light really well. You want to make sure that it's nice and smooth right up against the area that you're soldering to. Let's see if we can break that off here. Okay, I've got my scriber here. See, I can't even lift up the corner of it. It just goes right into the puddle of solder. Okay, yeah, I think that one's okay. All right, folks, well, there you have it. That's how to solder an amp chassis ground. I hope that helps you on your electronics journey. And if it did, then don't forget to hit the like button. You can also subscribe to the Mears Lab channel for more videos like this. And if you have anything you'd like to share, then be sure to leave a comment below too. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.